know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Jan Ludis, and if you do not know who this is, you got a couple episodes to go check out. Guys, this is Peter Panopoulos. He has been a co-star. He's been a special guest on the show. And every so often, we want to get together and give you a new message. And today's topic, you can see it behind me right now on the board, is community, yes. It's setting boundaries with people, yes. But it's also these transition phases. And that's something all of us go through at every single stage of our life. You're going through it right now, whether you realize it or not. But it's become a struggle point for so many of us because there's so much going on in the world. We don't know how to transition to the next great version of ourselves. We don't know how to transition to new friends, to community, which is something we're going to dive into. But guys, I want to get Peter back on the show because he brings so much knowledge, he brings so much wisdom and just insight into all these areas. And Peter, I'm going to give the ball to you right now to give them your background, just in case they've never seen you before. But take it and run with it, man. Like the traveling teacher, give them some background before we dive into these big topics.
Yeah, my name is Peter Panopoulos, former middle school math teacher. Went on a motorcycle journey for a while before COVID, came back and started some businesses, and most recently have started up a tutoring company as of last year, and really been enjoying it. Yep. Reaching students in a different way, and really kind of getting to know different communities in a more deeper approach, which has been really nice.
Yeah, exactly. And your life experience is what brings so much insight to these videos we've done together, because like you mentioned real briefly, the motorcycle journey, man, you've traveled the world. Yeah. That's how I look at it, man. You've traveled the world, but it literally was just the clothes on your back, basically.
Yes.
Your bike and everything. And so that has brought you so much knowledge and insight into the world, but it's carried over into what you're doing for students now. And it's carrying even further into these videos here. So we got together and we discussed what could be this week's topic, and it is the factor of community, setting boundaries for yourself in so many ways, but also the transition phase we go through when we have to leave that community when it doesn't serve us anymore. And we go through a period of loneliness and trying to find our way out of that loneliness to find a new community. So Peter, take that right now. Where do you want to start with this? Community, setting boundaries, transition, they're all intertwined.
I would say if we start with community in general, the overarching idea for me is the fact that in society today, with internet, social media, hectic work schedules, lack of time for the self, and lack of time to find the different parts of ourselves that we actually enjoy, we end up kind of slipping away from the potential community that we can form. Right? And it's not to say that people don't have friends and those friends aren't valuable, because everybody is valuable within every aspect of life as they are there for you, right? And we'll talk about this as well, but when it's time to go, it's time to go. And you have to accept it and understand that there's going to be a period of time where that emptiness exists, and yet you are allowing the new to come in, right? And so this is really kind of the overarching thing that we'd like to talk about today, and going through the different phases of how it happens.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love how you touched on the self. And at the end of the day, that's why we make these videos. That's why we live this life. That's why we walk this life, and whatever it looks like. But there is a season. There are different seasons in our lives when developing the self. And if we stay, and I see this in myself, I see this in people, I see this in clients I work with, everyone in the world at one point or another is very set in their ways. And that's not a bad thing at times. However, when you have the perspective that you're trying to grow into this next great version of you, when you kind of feel it in your heart that there's more to me, there's more out there for me, that's your higher self, your inner self, if you want to call it that, really pulling on you like, hey, we got to make some changes. And that's where the stagnancy of life needs to start to fade away, and you've got to start stepping out into something new. That's what Peter touches on right now with the emptiness feeling that could come, or you start to look at the people around you, your great friends. But what's the age-old quote? You become the people you're around.
Yes.
And if the people you're around aren't excelling or growing to a level that you know you can, you don't necessarily have to cut them off. That's not what we're saying. But it's to really take a hard look at yourself, take a hard look at the people around you, and realize, like, all right, I'm not saying bye to these people, but I know I need to start taking steps for me. That's self-improvement at its finest, but that's developing yourself and realizing, oh my goodness, there's an entire world, there's an entire universe out there for any experience I want to have. And if you choose that and you start taking steps to it, you're going to find something.
Yes. I for myself, and I'm sure everybody watching, at some point in your life, you had friends that eventually things just kind of grew apart, right? And it's something that's so interesting to see. And yes, sometimes it's you doing it for self-preservation or looking for something different, or things just aren't lining up with that person anymore, or vice versa. Maybe that person is starting to distance a little bit and you start to feel it, right? And you can say to yourself, I wonder why. And it can be something that may be upsetting at times, but at the same time you accept it as, you look back and you say, we had some really awesome times, and maybe now it's just time to kind of move forward.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason that person or you have kind of done the distancing, you look at it and you say, this is how life is. There's somebody, I don't know who said this, but people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? And I live by that, because it's you never know whether it's a reason, season, or lifetime until it's either a lifetime or not.
Wow.
But you look back after years later and you say, oh, that was the reason. Something that's been going on in your life currently, and 3 years ago maybe somebody taught you that lesson that now you no longer need to learn, because you learned it from that person, and you see it repeating, and the universe, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of re-bringing that test into your life to see, how are you going to react to it? Are you going to react to it differently than you did before? Are you going to react to it with a better understanding of why that happened?
Yep.
And if you do, then you continue to break that barrier and continue to move forward.
Yeah.
And life is just a big test, and we just continue to kind of move forward with it.
Yeah. That's such a deep concept. And I find that a lot of people don't try to fathom that concept, but when you do, it really brings you some different places, in the sense that life is trying to grow you. I always teach my clients and audiences, like, people don't realize how often they're setting the tone for their life with their thoughts, with their goals, with their dreams that they put out there. Whether you verbally pray them out there, you focus on them so much, you're setting the tone for your life universally. You're saying, in a thought pattern or a verbal pattern or an action pattern, I'm going to achieve this, no matter what you focus on. That could be a negative thing, it could be a very positive thing. But because you're setting the tone out there in a very big concept, I'm trying to bring this back down to eye level with you right now. You're saying to the universe, you're saying to God, you're saying to life, hey, I want this, and whatever comes, make it happen. And we don't realize that when we say that, it means people might leave you. It means that you might go through love, you might go through pain, you might go through fear, you might go through every emotion in the book, but it's developing you into such a greater version so you can achieve what you want. So Peter, I'm going to pass back up to you, because everything you just said is very deep. And I think giving people really more elaboration on that, to really just kind of understand, like, okay, life is sending me lessons. This life is a test. That's a whole other video in itself. But if life is going to send me lessons, and it's on me to really take a step back and look at my life. All right, what do I need to change? What is trying to change me? What do I have control over? What do I not have control over? And that, to me, is, up here we have setting boundaries. That's something where life is going to try and break every single one of those boundaries for you, right? But elaborate on that concept of the test and lesson aspect.
So let's talk about the setting boundaries, for example, because that's something that is one of the biggest tests in itself. How can you keep your sense of self through the healthy boundaries that you form with the people around you, while not, kind of overstepping those boundaries with the people that are around you. And this is another one of those practices that we've been talking about this whole time. You know, one of the practices we talked about last time was slowly stepping away from social media to the degree in which is unhealthy.
Right.
And it's this same idea where society today, people do not have healthy boundaries anymore.
Right.
You know, people talk about, I feel walked over or whatever the case may be. And yes, from the perspective of somebody else that is outside of you, testing those boundaries, it's something that is very difficult to form, and yet you have to stay strong within yourself with those boundaries. But at the same time, when you're trying to figure out what those boundaries are, it is inevitable that you are going to push the boundaries a little bit too far. But you know something? It's well worth it, because without pushing them too far, you don't know where the limits should be.
Right.
You have to push everything in life to those limits so that you can understand and feel how it feels when you push them too far. And then you can dial it back a little bit.
Yep.
But I'll tell you something, it's much better than going from having no boundaries and going too far and then balancing it into the middle than just staying with no boundaries because you're afraid that you're going to make those boundaries too strict.
Yeah. And, you're the perfect example of this concept where you're someone that I've come to realize is you might have certain boundaries in your life on a personal level, like growth level.
Yeah.
And you see them, like even your trip,
traveling,
like that's an out of your comfort zone boundary for 99% of the world.
Yeah.
Where I don't I don't know if I want to do that, travel the world on my bike and just really go up on a whim. That's only one concept of it, but just getting to know you look at how you can grow in life and just experience. You'll sign up for something, you'll go for it. I don't know these people, I'm just going to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to develop that myself even further. And it's different concepts for everyone. Like me, public speaking, like that's a boundary for a lot of people where they're terrified of it. Me, I'm like, that's not even a boundary. I'll do that any second of the day. But it's different for everyone. But elaborate on that, where a lot of people, they have these boundaries of their personal growth where it's like, I want to do this, but I'm not going to go that far. It's fear.
It's fear. I would say the boundaries. So what parts of the fear are creating those personal boundaries for you? The fear of maybe losing something that you had before that you were really enjoying, or the fear of people, your current community around you, disagreeing with the ideas and the things that you are trying to execute upon. And those two alone can hinder anybody from starting something.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd like to kind of clarify a little bit more, because I'd say in terms of boundaries, I think, yes, boundaries that we create for the potential of the things that we want to go out and do and experience is one type of boundary. But I would say more specifically the boundaries of others.
Yep.
And how that is the piece that is so important. And when you go through this practice of trying to figure out where those boundaries are, when you come to that center, and it's never going to be perfect. And again, we talk about this every single time. And I really like stressing this point on every single one of these podcasts, is that we are not talking about perfection. We're not talking about something that needs to happen tomorrow. We're simply talking about practices that can be done with ourselves and the world around us that are going to help us become better versions of ourselves, right? And so this idea of these boundaries is just as important. And when you stick to those boundaries, you see everybody else begins to start respecting them. For me personally, we have evolved. I believe that we've evolved from primates, right? And you see it in all of nature. You see that these boundaries, when they are tested, you either have to hold strong on those boundaries or you're going to get run over. And it's just finding that healthy balance.
I get that. Do you find that in this day and age, people hold their boundaries so strictly that they're unable to see someone else's viewpoints?
Totally. Yes. I see that you become, especially again with the media that everybody is seeing today, and with the algorithms that are actually, controlling what it is that each individual is viewing. We have really become split in a lot of ways.
So true.
And the idea of well, I'm watching all of this media, and yet somebody is telling me something that's way over here. And you say, well, it's impossible. I have never seen anything about what you're talking about in the media that I am absorbing.
Yeah.
So I completely disagree, and I'm not allowing to even talk about this, right? Whereas if you understand that the algorithms actually exist, and listen, they do control the psyche of society today.
Yeah.
And when you understand that and you see, okay, well, yeah, sure. Am I going to be going down this path? Definitely. But if somebody wants to express their opinion or something like that, it's not that I have to accept it. It's that I feel as though it's a different perspective on the same topic. And what happens when we actually listen to that different perspective? Sure, maybe our boundaries stay the same, but it softens us a little bit to say, you know what? I understand now why they may feel that way about that specific topic, because we actually listened. The boundaries may stay the same. However, you are accepting of what the other person is kind of thinking.
Right.
And there's a whole spectrum of that.
For sure.
If it's something that you feel so deeply about and are able to properly communicate with the other person, and the other person is properly able to communicate to you, that is something that is missing so deeply in society today, where opposing beliefs can no longer come together and chat normally. It's so difficult for that to actually be a thing anymore.
Exactly. I love this conversation because it's bringing two different perspectives into one, where a community perspective, like setting boundaries with the people around you and the beliefs in the collective community you're in, and then also the personal beliefs. And that, to me, is everything we're kind of mending together right now, because everything you're saying right now, I completely agree with, especially with how the world's operating through media and everything like that. However, I sit there and I look at it where I laugh with it, where you're someone right now that is so strict on their beliefs, and there's a reason why you're strict on it. That could be a trauma point, that could be a pain point, that could be a love point, that could be, a lot of people make decisions like unknowingly based off of good or bad moments they have when they were younger. And that sets the tone for the rest of your life. And that's why so many videos on Once a Week is us trying to help you take a look at the beliefs you stand on. Because when you take a look at the beliefs you stand on, you realize, oh my goodness, this doesn't serve me anymore. But in this day and age where they might look at one area of the news or media or whatever it is in the Sun article they read, and that becomes their concrete belief. Or someone in their family or maybe themselves were hurt by whatever the opposing side is. So now they are completely blocked off to someone else's perspective on the situation at hand. It's sad to say right now at the time of this video, there's a war going on the other side of the world, and it has rippled effect to our country, where literally people are fighting at odds in our country now on which side they stand on. That's not helping anything, because no one's looking at the core value of it, but everyone's looking at it through their own lens. I think when it comes to a personal belief and a personal boundary aspect, you have to have a humble heart to be able to hear the person out, like you just said. And then that is what builds community. That is what builds people around you, because you understood your boundary. Like, hey, I'll hear you out. I'm going to take everything you say. If it changes me, phenomenal. If it doesn't, phenomenal. One way or the other, I'm going to be here with you. That's the human concept that we've thrown out the window in society, because now it's you're wrong, I'm right. And that's that. No one learns in that situation.
No. And an experience, maybe your boundaries. I'll give you a perfect example. Before I left my motorcycle trip, the majority of people were like, do not go to Mexico. You're gonna get killed, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't personally know whether or not that was going to be the case, because I had never been down there before. I had done a little bit of research, as much as I could, to see, is this a 100% fact? And the other part, having traveled to Greece every summer to see family and all of that, you see that people's perceptions of other places may not align with what actually exists there. And, the boundaries of now, for example, now that I've been through Latin America, and 98% of the people were unbelievable, willing to take the shirts off their back, homeless, shoeless people willing to feed me if necessary. And, taking that experience, and when somebody says, oh, it's dangerous and you shouldn't go and all of that, everywhere is dangerous. You can always find dangerous situations. And yet if you kind of keep and hold on to that so tightly without actual experiences, it's something that I feel as though you need to just go out and experience to actually
Yep.
see for yourself.
For sure.
And you cannot take the word, don't even take my word for
Yeah.
it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Go and do it.
Right.
Go and do it and go see. And if it's out of your comfort zone, maybe it's worth to dip your toes in a little
For
bit.
sure. Well, that's a transition point right there, the comfort zone aspect with boundaries. And I think you have to have boundaries in life for sure on core values, but you can't be so constrict in your boundaries that you don't leave your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I can tell you straight up, growing up, that was me. I stayed in my box and that was that. And then life said, hey, get out. I look back on my life and realize that when I started really believing in myself for what I wanted to do and speaking and helping people around the world and in these deeper concepts, that is truly when my life fell apart. And that's why I said earlier, you might say it in a prayer, you might say it in a focus point, you might study it constantly in your own way, but you're sending a message out there. And looking back on my life, I believe so strongly that I was meant to speak and help people at such a young age, but then growing into it for sure. I love the fact that my entire life fell apart because it broke me out of my comfort zone. All I have is to take a chance on myself. And when that's your opportunity, as you did with your motorcycle trip and everything, when your only option is to take a shot on yourself, you can only succeed. Life will throw everything in the book at you, but to realize that you have the strength to go forward, now your boundary, everything we're talking about, is all dictated by the belief you have in yourself. So your comfort zone starts to spread out where it's like, all right, let's go. Why not?
Going out of your comfort zone and going into something unknown actually helps you create these healthier boundaries as well. Going to a foreign country on a motorcycle and, not having anybody that around for, thousands of miles, right? You have to be strong in yourself. You have to form that strength in yourself. You have to form the boundaries because, again, do I feel as though my time in Latin America was incredible and unbelievable? Yes. Did I run into things that happened to me because of other people that were kind of putting me in danger? Yes. Those things of being alone out there and having these things happen to you, you have to be stern and you have to be accepting of what's going on in the situation. And that whole idea just helps form boundaries in such a way that when you come back from that state of discomfort, it stays with you.
Yeah.
Because it was a survival tactic to do something like that. But you realized that it got you past what it was that you needed to get through.
100%.
And by getting past that, you realize, well, I can take this example that I just said, and I can say, okay, well, that's an extreme example. It's definitely an extreme example. However, I can take that extreme example and I can use it for the little pieces in my life. I can take those boundaries that I created from that extreme example and I can come back to normal life and I can extend those boundaries so that I can stay in myself.
Right.
And so that people around me will respect those boundaries in a better way.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And that's growth at its finest.
Yeah.
When you can go through these moments, survive these moments, yes, of course, but then you bring them back because you're a new person. And that's the purpose of all these videos, is to really help you understand, like, taking chance on yourself, taking steps, taking action, whatever word you want to use for it. It allows you to see yourself in such a different light. And that light then goes into every single moment you find yourself in later on. And it's like, so you could be someone that's incredibly, social anxiety, fearful of everyone around you. You don't want to talk and whatnot, but then life makes you go into that situation and you survive. And a lot of people think they won't survive social situation. It's like you go through it, you get stronger in that. And then when you're leaving it, it's done, it's over, you're here. You can look back on that and realize that the confidence is now in such a great place. Where it's like, oh, well, I did it then. I'm going to do it this time. And it's a different version of you. It's a more developed version of you. It's a stronger version of you, whatever word you want to use for it. But that's the beauty of coming out of your comfort zone and coming out of these boundaries and so on and so forth. we're gonna pause this video, guys, because we're losing lights. All right, we're back. We have no idea what just happened with the electricity. We're in an office building right now where other people have electricity. For some reason, ours shut off. I think the energy from this video is just causing everything to the mainframe. But we're going to get right back into this whole thing. I know I was just going off on a talk of, there it goes again. No worries, we're going to let that ride. But we're going to continue this conversation on coming out of your comfort zone. So everything I just said, Peter, I'm going to pass back off to you in the sense of the confidence you grow in coming out of your comfort zone. And then I want to go into this bigger topic I have as we transition this conversation into the loneliness phase that comes with community and setting boundaries and leaving potential groups.
There is a reward system that our body has for stepping out of our comfort zones, and it's called positive emotions, right? We get this good feeling when we approach this thing that is inside of us that is a barrier that we're trying to overcome, which is a totally different type of barrier. And a barrier we're trying to overcome, and when we do so, we get this good feeling. We feel this accomplishment, because it's not only about building and doing and creating the things around you, because we get positive emotions from that as well. It's a feeling of success. It's a feeling of enjoyment that we get from building something or creating something, whatever the case may be. But it's also internally, when we overcome those boundaries and we overcome those hurdles, we have this positive feeling.
Yeah.
And this reward system is so important. And again, something that we touched on last time is that these instincts and these pieces of ourselves that we have had since the beginning of time as humans, we are beginning to numb. And we numb them and we don't understand them, because we say, okay, well, I'm comfortable right here. Everybody around me is telling me to stay comfortable, and so I'm going to do so. And yet we have to dig deeper. We have to, every single person, if you're feeling stagnant, like Billy was talking about before, find something different to do. It could be anything. It could be something so small. Go out and do it. Come home and just feel the difference in your body. That just shows that you are stepping out of a comfort zone, a stagnancy that is no longer serving you. That is you stepping out of a friendship, a relationship, anything at all. And just understanding that moving into something different is an emptying, and creating that emptiness is going to allow something new to come in.
100%. I love that. I completely love that, because that breaks stagnancy. It grows you in such a way, but it's allowing you to see that there's more in this life. And this concept, I love the concept of people developing the confidence to step out of their comfort zone. And that, as I said already in this video, like that's something I used to struggle with tremendously. And in certain aspects that other people would be fearful of, I could do that. But then certain aspects that everyone was able to do, I struggled with, because anxious and didn't believe myself, all this stuff. But as I began to grow and began to learn, this concept fits so well, which is attachment, detachment, and non-attachment. And if you've looked at some of our old videos, I've mentioned this in many different videos. There's an entire video on this entire concept. I've taught it in seminars, I've taught it in workshops. Attachment is, I need this in my life to be able to be happy. And if this isn't here, I'm not happy. I'm so attached to this, or you set a goal for yourself, and I'm so attached to this one outcome, I will not even look at the fact that a million other outcomes could be there. There's only one way to make me happy. That creates depression in such an incredible way, because you are sitting in your boundaries, in your comfort zone, saying life has to look this way, and that's it. When life wants to bring you so many more blessings and so much goodness and so much love in so many different forms, but because your blinders are on this one way, you block everything else out. That creates a stagnation aspect in us. And then you have detachment. And detachment comes to us when we step out of our comfort zone, maybe, or more importantly, life kicks you out of your comfort zone. And that happened to me. I can tell you straight up that happened to me, where I went through so much pain at one period in my life. I detached myself from so many situations, from not necessarily friends, but experiences with those friends. And I was so broken from all these different things that fell apart in my life all at once, that I didn't really want to be out there. I didn't really want to live in these certain concepts. I wanted my life, but I detached myself from living that life. And when it comes to your comfort zone and stagnation, a lot of us go through a pain in life, and then we get hurt and we just decide to take our ball and go home. We detached ourselves from actually experiencing what life wants to give us. When coming out of your comfort zone, that affects us more than we realize. And the last one's my favorite. It's what I live my life by now more than ever. And it's created so much peace, so much freedom, so much love, so many blessings in my life. And that is non-attachment. And when you can live in a state of non-attachment, if it comes, I let it. If it goes, I let it. That simple terminology allows you to go forward in any experience in your life situation with confidence, because you're no longer bogged down by the worry and the stress and the anxiety and the future plans of this and this and, oh my goodness, if it doesn't work out this way, I'm gonna fail, all this kind of stuff. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm gonna just enjoy myself and be here, the best version of me. And if you move out of your comfort zone in that state, non-attachment, you're just allowing yourself to enjoy whatever growth comes. And I sit there and before we start filming, you mentioned your motorcycle broke down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have no control over that situation whatsoever. If he is someone that is so attached to, well, this stinks, and you're going to allow yourself to get so frustrated. Your lower level emotions come out in those moments. You're so upset that this happened. But then if you sit there and like, hey, it happened. Well, let's fix it and let's just keep the ball rolling. That's non-attachment. You're like, all right, well, let me just go through it. And then before I pass back to you, detachment would be your bike breaks down. Well, let's just leave it there and you just go home. That's the whole concept right there.
That example is so interesting, because when it broke down, this happened a few days ago. When it broke down, I was on the highway, and I was so just enjoying the fact that it did. I was kind of surprising myself.
Yeah.
I was just, because it wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
My plan was not to have the motorcycle break down. And I was sitting there on the side of the exit that I came off on, just smiling, just looking at the wires on the bike and trying to see what could have gotten loose or anything like that. And yet the whole time I'm sitting there just smiling.
Yeah.
It was okay to me.
Non-attachment.
And I'll be really honest with you, and Mom, I'm sorry about this, but like, I was about to go to war on the highway. Like, I was really feeling myself on the bike, and the second I tried to give it some gas, it just completely died.
Really?
And that's what's so interesting, is that you can have a plan in life in general. You can have a plan about what you're about to do, where you're about to go. There is always a reason why it doesn't go that way. And whether you can see it in that moment, like I did when I started laughing, I was like, somebody's looking out for me here. Or you see it a few years later and you say to yourself, you know what? That's why that happened.
100%.
Thank God it happened that way.
Right.
Because otherwise I wouldn't have learned that lesson or done that thing, or it wouldn't have led me to where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And yet, if I try to control the situation and say to myself, no, I have to push in that direction, then, yes, you're going to push in that direction. You're putting up so much resistance against what can actually be coming and what actually should be coming to you, that you change the trajectory and not for the better.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole concept right there. I love that. Thank God it happened that way.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, because that literally is my perspective on everything I've been through in my life, where I laugh at it now, where I'm like, I'm so grateful,
Yes.
because if it didn't happen that way, I wouldn't have become the person I need to be. But how it happened the way it did is what breaks us out of our comfort zone. That's why we come to you guys today. And it's like, I'm never going to tell anyone to you have to, completely gun it out of the comfort zone. Like, no, but you have to be able to daily, weekly, whatever it is for you, start to take steps out of that. And whatever your goal is for yourself, it doesn't have to be a monetary goal or whatever it is, but for yourself, who do you want to become? Who are you? Can that grow in certain areas? That will take coming out of your comfort zone for whatever it means. It might be talking to different people, or talking to people a different way, or whatever it means. But that takes us to our next point, Peter, that I really want to dive into, because it connects to all this comfort zone aspect. And that is transitioning from one community or comfort zone in your life, or boundary in your life, as we've touched on, into a new phase, and the connector point from one area to the other, more often than not, is a season of loneliness.
Absolutely. Um, it is something we talked about last podcast as well, where we talk about depression and we talk about sitting with that depression or anxiety and trying to figure it out and asking yourself, am I going to go crazy, or am I going to actually get through that depression and get to the other side? And that's the fear that holds a lot of people back. But there is always going to be a period of loneliness or stagnancy or something that, when you are on this process of trying to create something new for yourself and create a community around you. And this is such an uncomfortable time where you're really just trying to exist and hold on tight, because it can be an interesting journey. And yet it is so important, because you start to understand yourself better. You start to see the attachments that you had from before that you can start to let go of, because when you trust in the fact that I'm going to let go of these attachments and something new is bound to come. For me, it is statistically improbable that if you will empty the cup and you allow that loneliness or period of isolation to exist, it is statistically improbable. I never say impossible, statistically improbable that something new is not going to fill that space. It is almost a given that it's going to happen.
Right.
You simply have to allow for that time and that space to exist.
Yeah.
And then the question becomes, well, how much time is it going to take? It really depends. It depends on so many different factors. And if anybody tells you, oh, give it a year, give it this, give it that, maybe that's for them. You just don't know. And yet you are standing in front of the biggest wall in your life, and you're saying, I don't care how long this is going to take. I am going to get through this.
Yeah.
I'm going to break this wall, and I am accepting of what is to come, and I am understanding that it's going to be better.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. And it is exactly that. There's a wall that comes up in a transition phase of your life. And, more importantly, when everyone asks, well, how long do I have to go through this for? It's your life. You never know. And, I ask that question so many times, and we could do an entire topic on the certain questions we ask. But at the same time, usually more often than not, when you ask, well, how long is this going to be? On a universal concept, you just added more time to it because you're more so focusing on whatever you want to be here, not being here. Yeah. So you're sending out a universal message. This is deep. There's other videos we dive into this, but you send out a universal message to then say, bring me more of this, because all you're focusing on is emptiness. All you're focusing on is loneliness. All you're focusing on is you don't want to wait any longer. But since you're focusing on the wait, universally, you're sending out a message that says, bring more weight, bring more of this. That's why there's so many great speakers out there, but so many videos we've done is to help you understand and focus on the higher level emotions like love, joy, peace, finding freedom in the moment, and all these gratitude, all these great areas. Because when you focus on those areas and you become grateful for what's around you, you're sending a message out to bring more of this feeling, this joy, this love, this gratitude, whatever it is. But connecting this all to the loneliness factor. The beauty of a transition from one area to another in your life and going through a season of loneliness, as Peter said, there's an emptiness there. That is scary for a lot of people. That is painful for a lot of people. I've walked both of those routes in this concept. But again, I had to look at the situations in my own life and really sit there and be like, all right, there's nothing else around me. It's like the entire board got cleared, clean slate. What do I want to add to it? What area do I want to step into? If I'm lonely right now, I don't want to be lonely forever. And that doesn't, a lot of people look at loneliness as a relationship concept. Expand your viewpoint right now. Season of loneliness means you're walking this path right now. I don't want to say alone, because I believe someone's always walking with you, but there's no one immediately around you physically, so you feel alone. That, to me, has become one of the most beautiful periods of life, because now the door is completely open to whatever you want it to be. And people are afraid to leave their comfort zone because they think no one's going to be there. People are afraid to break free from certain communities because they don't want to be judged and feel alone. do it. If there's a calling on your heart to step out of these areas, yes, it might be lonely at times, but as Peter said, watch as the right people start to fill your life, as the right things they're supposed to be there start to fill your life. That is something that I feel so strongly in, because we now live and we teach our kids to live in a box. And society and social media teach us to live in a box. And we have to look at the world through this lens, and we have no control of everything else. But then life will come and break you out of the box, and it's on you to realize, like, oh my goodness, I'm in control of everything. I can walk left or I can walk right on your screen, whatever. I can walk this way and go this way. I don't have to sit there and listen. Everyone else went straight, but I like it over there. I'm going to go that way. You got to do you. And a season of loneliness allows you to believe in yourself at such a greater level. So you're no longer lonely. You're forever with yourself, and you realize, oh my goodness, this is phenomenal. I have full control over whatever I want to bring. That's why you went in on your trip.
Yeah.
You know?
And I had mentioned in one of the first podcasts we did together, I felt around this area and with my community and family and everybody who I love very much, I felt like a black sheep. I felt like nobody wants to travel like I do. I can't have discussions about these things because nobody's really interested in it. Maybe they would like to talk about it at some point, but it's not something that they would actually like to go out and try. And when I actually made the choice to go and do this, the moment I hit the hostels in Mexico, the first hostel I went to, immediately I was like, I just found my people.
Yeah.
It took me so long. I just found my people. I stepped out of my boundary. I went to this foreign land, and what do you know? Every part of my community of travelers was there waiting for me, welcoming me there. And you start to see, okay, for me, for example, like I started to see that, all right, I'm not a black sheep in general. Maybe it's just something that doesn't align with the people at home, and that's fine. And it doesn't mean that you have to let go of those people by any means. It just means that I have found that there is a sense of normalcy amongst the people that I travel with and meet on the road that brings me such comfort for myself.
Yeah.
And that occurs with anything, whether you get a new job, you're entering into a new community, or you are trying some new hobby or something like that. You're entering into a new community. And the depth in which you can give yourself to that community in the beginning and show people yourself you can really start to see how accepting they become of you because you're giving.
Yeah.
And something that you talked about before, you don't know how long it's going to take. You asked me today before this podcast, how are you doing in general? And I told you, and I really mean this, and this is something that is just very emotional for me because it took me such a long time to get to where I'm at right now. And it's something that I am just enjoying. Yeah. I've reached the point where, I felt uncomfortable for 32 years of my life. I felt this, I need to see things and do things and try new things and just get out there and do them. And it was so uncomfortable. And it's not that I have fully made it yet, but it's that I feel so much at peace with myself and the life that I've created because of all of that action, that I can finally just settle and enjoy it and really make peace with it. Yeah. And it's just something that feels so incredible. And for any single human that's watching this right now, I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. When you go into these periods of unknown and these periods of loneliness and isolation and all of these things, keep pushing, keep going. If you need anybody to talk to, call one of us, talk to somebody that knows you well, just keep going. Because what comes out of the other side is this peace that is just irreplaceable. You could put anything in front of me, any object, any person, anything. And at this point, I just understand the peace within myself. And it took so long to get there. And now that I'm here, it's just this breath of positive, fresh air. I wake up in the morning and I am just like, thank you to myself. Thank you for pushing so hard to figure this out amongst the sea of people saying, things or whatever, just going and doing it. Yeah. And the feeling is indescribable until you actually feel it. But just please, just keep going and do not stop.
That's awesome. And I got to ask you a question because we had that great conversation prior to us filming today. You've reached a point in your life where you feel so grateful and good for all the action you took. Where there were times this past year where you wanted to get up and move to certain other states just to like really take action, not necessarily take action, but to experience more. But now you're in this state where it's like, you know what, I feel peace. You go. Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
For me, yes, travel has been a great thing. Just like anything else in life, it can become a form of escapism. And the example that you're talking about, my plan was to go to Florida and escape the winter for a few months and enjoy it down there. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, but for me, I noticed that it was this point of escapism. And so my plans have changed to the fact that I'd like to do maybe 3-day trips here and there, but to really just settle in here. And I just wanted to make that a point because everything in life can be a form of escapism, and it's important to understand when it can be a form of escapism, because that is not beneficial, and it's something that can kind of hinder the progress. So sorry to interrupt.
No,
I wanted to bring that in.
You literally just answered the question I was going to ask, and I want to elaborate on it because I was going to ask you, what was it that helped you feel peace in this moment to realize I don't have to keep going and going? You just answered, because if you had a realization point for yourself where escapism, like, you know what, like, why am I trying to do that? It sounds like you sat with yourself and realized, you know what, like, there's so much here. I want to live my life in this moment now. And you could travel, you could do everything like that. But you had a realization point for yourself, and you realized, like, escapism, like, in some ways that's very beneficial, and in some ways that's unbeneficial for a lot of people. You sat with yourself, realized that's there, and it sounds like you let it go.
Yes.
So you allowed, here we go, connect all your dots. You allowed an empty point in yourself, your personality, your traits, everything like this. You took it and you're like, hey, this doesn't serve me anymore. And it was filled with peace to realize, you know what? I like where I'm at. I love my life. I want to grow my life here. I say that to you, that's such a magnificent moment where you filled yourself with such a different peace. But I say it to everyone watching and listening right now. If Peter can do that for himself, he's just like you, he's just like me, he's just another guy in the world who's pursuing his own life in his own way. For you right now, take a look at yourself. I'm not going to tell you, go look in the mirror or everything like this, but sit with yourself for a while and realize, like, maybe it is escapism. Maybe it's something else. But you really got to look at yourself and realize, like, what doesn't serve me anymore that I needed for a season in my life to take action to really experience the world. Escapism and that concept was so beneficial to you because it brought in so many great experiences. Then he gets to a point where it's like, I can finally let this go. That's a growth moment. So I say to you, what is your growth moment? What is something that doesn't serve you anymore that you can let go and allow life to fill with peace, love, freedom, joy? And what we don't realize, and this is across the board, this doesn't have to be a life concept, this can be a love concept, this can be a family concept, relation, whatever it is. We don't realize what we're holding on to from our past. And then when we let it go, it's like the universe, God, life is just like, oh, finally, here's the thing I wanted to fill it with. But we hold on to it for so long that we don't realize that waiting concept we mentioned earlier. We're the one causing the wait because we're unwilling to let go and let life fill us with what it's meant to fill us with. But that's a major concept right there. And, I'm going to connect these dots back together, Peter, where, I'm so grateful that you explained that experience right there, because that's more beneficial in my eyes than everything we've already talked about. But the transition when we are trying to step into a new community and whatnot, you touched on so much part of you mentioning your experience and find that peace. And the quote that came to me is, if you are never lost, how will you be found?
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not the one that came up with that. That's literally, I don't know who said that. That's been out there. But you went through it. I went through it. These seasons of loneliness is a season of being lost. But that's when you truly find yourself. That's when you truly find your community. That's when you truly find the people that are meant to be in your life. And you might be listening right now and you might feel extremely lost. And as Peter said, keep going. Keep stepping into that, but you have to break out of the shell. That's when you find out who you truly are. That's when you find out why you went through what you went through is so phenomenal to why you went through it, because it's brought so many great traits to you. But you got to get lost.
And you have to, again, I've said this before, and I really do feel this deeply because of my experiences. Every single person in life needs to step away for a while. You have to step away. Everybody needs some sort of pilgrimage. We are beings that roam.
Yeah.
And we need to roam. And when we don't roam and we just stay, it's detrimental to our happiness. It's detrimental to, the type of person that we are meant to become. It's necessary, again, it's necessary to feel that stagnancy and be there, and then it's necessary to take action and move forward from it. And that is something that is lacking in society today. And it's something that is just so important to the evolution of each individual. Sure. And again, you get out there, you see the life that you left behind in a different light, and then you go and do these new experiences, and you come home and you can integrate all of that together into one life that you actually have. And the relationships around you get better because you're more at peace with yourself. The community around you that starts to form is maybe the same one, but also quite possibly a different one. And you stick with it, and you find these pieces of community that eventually become your reality. And it's like the traveling, for example. Again, it's like, maybe I'll do 3-4 day trips here and there. I will, as of right now, I don't plan on leaving for an extended period of time in this moment. But that community is always there for me. I know that they're there in my heart because I found them, because I left and I went on a pilgrimage, and I went and I did it. And without having done that, I could not have created the peace inside of myself to know I'm a part of a community that I may not see every single day, but that exists. And I feel so comfortable and deep within that community that is something that I carry with me now for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's awesome. That connects everything we've brought to you guys today. And I think it's so true. You got to go on that pilgrimage for yourself. And whatever that looks like, I think going out into the world, as Peter has done, is so incredible. A pilgrimage could also be something you do closer to home, but coming out of the normalcy that you've lived in. And, you touched on it earlier, we're humans, we're human beings. Truthfully, as much as you say we're roamers, we're creatures of habit. And sadly, because of social media, we keep coming back to that point, and the way the world is and how we're taught and trained in schools nowadays more than ever is to all operate one way. And that one way is a construct. It's a box, and it's trying to make us live and operate one certain aspect. So same habits, same patterns, action-wise, but also thought-wise. And so it's not to say I don't want the idea to come through that you're becoming a robot, but if humans are habit-based creatures, you got to take a look at your habits and see, are they getting me out of my shell? Are they allowing me to really grow and develop into who I know truly in my heart I'm meant to be? More often than not, people will look at that list, if you take the time and do it, and realize that your habits are not creating this person you're meant to be. And life wants you to become this. You want to become this. It's in your heart, it's in your mind for a reason, the goals and the dreams that you have for yourself. But it is on you to realize these concepts. And if our brains operate in patterns and habits, you can change that formula at any moment. As much as our social media sends us algorithms to, you spent 3 seconds looking at this post, you obviously must like this because we're going to send you more of this. I had to explain it to a client the other day. She didn't know that's how the algorithms work. But it's seriously, you don't even have to like anything anymore. It's just like, you looked at this post for longer than 10 seconds. That means you want more of this. And the algorithm sends it to you. So if that's how social media was based, I will forever talk about this in my seminars. The phone that you might be watching this or listening to this on is a carbon copy of everything your mind can do. But if your phone is built off of formulas and algorithms and all these characteristics, your brain also is. And if you want to change those habits and those patterns and then come out of your comfort zone, come into new communities and whatnot, you got to take a chance. And it might seem fearful in your mind, but when you eventually step out and do it, you realize, like, what the heck was I afraid of? Oh my goodness, I'm going to start to enjoy this.
There needs to be a period of spring cleaning internally just as much as externally. When you have things in your house and you go through every year and you're like, you know what, I don't use this anymore. I need to get rid of this. I need to lighten the clutter in my life around me. But at the same exact time, you have to lighten the clutter inside of you as well.
Yeah.
And I think I'm coming to realize now, Billy, every time that we do this podcast, I think the overarching thing here is this idea of, just purging the old.
Yeah.
And really just allowing the new to come in.
For sure.
And that has to do with community. It has to do with the self. It has to do with experiences. It has to do with every aspect of life.
Yeah.
You have to do the spring cleaning inside and take a step back.
Yeah.
That's that message.
Sure.
Is just take a step back every single day as much as you can. Take a step back. Take a step back from your emotions and try to understand them from an external perspective as well as an internal. Not only do you have to actually feel those emotions in order to be able to move forward from them and with them, but you have to be able to take a step back from the body and just say, what is this body doing right now? Why might it be doing this? And what can I do to change it?
Yeah.
And these are that taking a step back from everything in life and looking at it from a perspective of what is serving me and what is not right now.
Yeah.
What can I do to continuously move forward to get those feel-good feelings that I have from pursuing the ultimate evolution of myself and the further alignment to the person that I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And that is, again, the overarching, I feel, the overarching message of all of the podcasts that we've done so far. And again, it's a practice. Do not go hard on yourself. Do not be hard on yourself for the fact that it is a practice and it's not something that is to be done immediately. It is just something that we're all working towards. Everybody's struggling with something, and everybody is trying to move forward into that new sense of peace that they want to find for themselves, because ultimately everybody wants to find peace within themselves. And you just have to be careful of the things that you put in front of you, the boundaries that you set for yourself, with the people around you, the ability to let go and form new communities and just find new things. All of this comes from the umbrella of just stepping back, taking a deep breath, and just enjoying the ride.
100%. There's no better way I could end a video other than that. Like, I think you just put a major exclamation point on these big concepts you brought today. But I agree with you 100%. That taking a step back, I will forever tell everyone to do that. You guys watch and listen right now, clients, myself, family, audiences, whatever it is, because you have no idea how powerful it is. And I reiterate everything Pierre just said. Take a step back for yourself every single day and evaluate, realize, rest in it, relax in it, and realize, all right, what could I change? Well, I yelled at someone in my car today. That didn't help me. It didn't make me feel good afterwards. It didn't change anything. Next time, you know what? I'm not going to waste my energy. Take a step back, realize what doesn't serve you anymore, and realize what can serve you further. And when you do that, as he mentioned, purging the old, you start to develop such a new life. New lifestyle, of course, but you start to really bring more good in, more peace in, more love in, more opportunity in, because you're stepping out of the old and becoming the new. So I connect everything right there, Peter, everything you talked about. We'll round this entire thing out right now because you've given everyone so much to really sink into. Is there any lasting message you want to finally finish this video with?
Yeah, what I said before, just keep going. Don't stop. Sometimes you need to rest, and that's fine. And then you just get back up and you keep going. And you find the things that bring you joy, and you become aware of the things that hinder that joy. And I'm talking about inner peace joy, not just joy in the moment, because there are going to be really tough times that you go through things to find that inner peace that you're ultimately looking for. And it's an investment to always push into those things, push the buttons of the things that are bothering you so that you can actually break open that door and figure out, how am I going to fix this? And how am I going to become the person that I really want to become? How am I going to structure my life in the way that I want to structure it so that I can live in the lifestyle that I want to live? And that doesn't mean only monetarily, because money brings new problems. It's not a matter of money. Listen, money is a tool. It is something that is helpful in the lives that we live today, and yet it is not the end goal. The end goal is, if you're pursuing business, if you're pursuing anything in your life and your plan is to make money, yes, that's good, but also understand that there needs to be a balance with the contentment that you have with the life that you are creating as well. Enjoy the community around you. Build new communities around you. Just go talk to somebody random. Go do new things so that you can create that inner peace that everybody is looking for. And you can look around one day and you can say, you know what, this was a tough road, and I did it.
Yeah.
And just, do not stop.
Yeah.
Do not stop.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. Guys, in this entire video, we went over community. We went over setting boundaries. We went over the transition points to feeling lonely in that period and then coming out of it. All key areas to what develops you as a person. Personal development, self-improvement, personal growth. You can pick any term in the world to describe these topics, but they're real. The community you hold around you, you become the people you're around. If the people you're around aren't necessarily bringing you to where you want to be, I will never say get rid of them, but I will tell you that there's more for you out there. You got to grow into the person that can step into these new communities by taking a chance. As Peter just said, keep going. Come out of your comfort zone. You set boundaries for yourself. You set boundaries for yourself in the communities you're in that have boundaries, and you make the decision when you step out of that boundary, when you step out of the community boundary, when you grow a little bit further and then realize, oh my goodness, my boundary is different now because I had more experience, I had more life to really sink my teeth into. That grows you as a person. Are there loneliness periods in there? Yes, because that is a period to allow you to grow and to sort through everything that you've been through and realize that it allowed you a brace period to really figure out, oh, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. I got so much strength out of that lonely period. I'm so grateful I went through it. But you got to raise your perspective. You got to look at life through this deeper lens, and that is all done by taking a step back every day, every so often, whatever it is, to realize life still has your back, but you got to take the steps forward to continue to see what you're made of and what you can do in this life. But I thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to close it out right here. Peter, I thank you so much for being here again, brother. I love our conversations, and just what you said with the overarching topics basically is stepping into the new.
Yeah.
And that will forever be, I think, an underlying factor to every video we do, regardless of what our topic might be, because we want to help you guys step into the new. But Peter, tell them more where they can find you before we close everything out.
Instagram for the tutoring company is @a_traveling_teacher. If you want to find more about my motorcycle journey, then you can do @peter.panopoulos1. The website's a traveling teacher, and those are the big ones. I mean, I do want to say that the business that I have is an extension of myself. The passion that I have for it is just so big because it's something that I have always desired to be a part of. And so, go check it out. Ask me any questions that you have. And, I'm always happy to chat.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Guys, go check them out. As always, all of the accounts, everything you just mentioned, the websites are going to be in the credits of this video. They're going to be in the YouTube description under this video, so you can click right on them and go check everything out, guys. But I thank you so much for tuning in. Like this message on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up on below. Share this message to someone who you feel needs to hear it, to someone who you feel can grow with it. As I always say, I've said it in every single video. If someone popped in your mind at any of the key bigger points we talked about today, that is a clear-cut sign that they could use this video too. Not to help us, to help them grow. That's the purpose of every video we put out there. So if someone did pop in your mind, share it to them right now, guys, and help someone else out. Reach out a hand to them. And please subscribe to once a week on YouTube if you have not already, because the more that number goes up, the algorithm takes it, as we talked about earlier, and sends it to more people it can help. So you can play a role in that concept too. But I thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you are in need of a coach who can step in and help in these areas today, or a speaker to come in and help in a collective group, as we've talked about on these topics today, guys, head to BillyGLifeCoaching.com and you can set up a free call with me, and I'll be right there for you because I want to be right there for you. But comment on this video if you have questions on these deeper topics. I know Peter usually says that every single video. Comment and ask questions, guys. We want to help you with this, and we're going to be there. You know, if you have a question on, I don't know, 30 minutes in, ask about it. We want to help you, but you got to reach out. As we said earlier, take a step for yourself. Thank you for tuning in, Peter. Always a blast, brother.
Always. Thanks so much.
Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Boo signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock.